Hi, I'm Ryan Taylor. I'm a 12th year realtor here in Moncton, and these are my top tips to finding the best deals in the market. This is for New Brunswick, but it might be applicable to other markets. Now, a quick note, just because something in here fits the framework, it doesn't mean that the deal is a good value. It just depends on the numbers. However, this framework should help you find better values in the market. Tip number 1, avoid the hype and don't chase new listings. New listings are exciting and they seem fun, but they also seem fun and exciting for other buyers, which means more showings and more competition and potentially a higher price. Now, you may be caught up in the hype and think, well, what's the harm in me writing a lower offer? Well, the problem is if there are other offers on this listing, all that lower offer is going to do is give more leverage to the seller, increasing the price and making it more difficult for that buyer to renegotiate. Now, why does this matter? Well, you are kind of hoping for that deal to fall through, and it's much more likely to fall through if there is less competition. And it's entirely possible that that buyer gets cold feet if he thinks or they think that they're the only person buying it. Now, keep in mind, to be in multiple offers, there is no set amount of offers that you need. It can be 2 offers or it can be 35 offers or more. All that the other buyer knows is that they are not the only person writing the offer. So even if you write a low offer, that buyer is not necessarily going to know what you wrote. All they're going to know is that you wrote. One thing I like to say is the best thing you can be in the real estate market is a vulture. You don't want to be the early bird. The early bird gets excited and it competes with other early birds to get the worm. What you want to be is the vulture. The vulture waits, it watches, and it moves in when it sees that something is wounded. And that wounded thing in this situation is a listing that doesn't have any buyers for it right now. This tip is most applicable in markets that are shifting down. Next, tip number 2, be decisive when real value shows up. Oftentimes, new buyers or younger buyers will hesitate when there's a new listing. Often this is fear-driven. They're scared of making the wrong decision, whether that be from a price point perspective or whether it be from a house that is going to cause them a lot of problems. Experienced buyers have seen this before, and they'll typically gobble up these properties before you even get the chance to see them. Now, the key to knowing it's a good value and a house that is not going to cause you a lot of problems is to have a good team of professionals working for you if you don't have that experience yourself. So you want a good home inspector, you want an agent that knows what they're doing and knows what they're looking at, someone that can run data, and someone that can save you money on an inspection for pointing out something that is obvious. For example, roof shingles being close to replacements. You don't want to spend $800 to find out that roof shingles need to be replaced when you simply could have looked at those roof shingles at the showing. It's really good to have an agent that is going to look for all of these sort of things. Now, this isn't to say the agent is an inspector. Just make sure that they take the time to educate themselves on construction and building materials so they can help save you some money. So when you do hire the inspector, that you hire them on the right property. And when you do write an offer, that you pay the right price for that property. And really, this is where the difference is going to come in. To be a big winner or a huge loser in this situation, it's going to come down on either personal knowledge or the quality of the team that you have working for you. This is most applicable in markets that are shifting up. So for example, I had a buyer back in 2017 and we found them an absolute great deal. It was actually underpriced and I got them in. I called them right away. I was like, all right, we have to get in this house. We have to get in today. I think it's a great price. We got in, we got them about $5,000 under asking. Keep in mind, 2017, $5,000 under asking. It was like going 20 over asking for them. However, they saw it through. They understood the value. I showed them the data. And they wound up more than doubling their money in about 4 to 5 years. Tip number 3, find the soft spot in the days on market. Now, this is going to vary depending on which market you're in. Here in Moncton or New Brunswick, typically there are about 2 weeks of conditions. That means from the date you write the offer, there are 2 weeks to get your financing, your inspection, insurance, disclosure statement, all of that stuff in order. What this results in is a certain soft spot. Oftentimes when these deals fall through, they fall through at the 11th hour. So I like to say, look at homes between 10 and 30 days on market. These are homes that are more likely to have offers that just fell through, homes that just became available again. And early on in tip 1, this is the wounded animal I'm talking about. You want to be a vulture here. And this isn't to say take advantage of anyone. I'm not advocating that, but you have to look out for your own financial interests. And if you can see something where leverage is working in your favor, you have to take advantage of that. This world is not forgiving if you don't do these things. Now, typically around this time too, doubt and fear begins to creep in for the sellers, especially if that offer has fallen through. But if they haven't had any offers at all, a lot of things go through their mind at this point. For some reason, when you're selling a house, every day feels like 2 weeks and every month feels like a year. It's a really difficult process to try and sell a house, and you need to be mindful of this when you're a home buyer. Now, in hotter markets, you're going to run into things like backup offers, which kind of make this a little bit redundant. But in markets that are not very hot, so anything north of 3 months of inventory, anything under 60% SNLR, this is a really good strategy to implement. Tip number 4, don't sleep on price drops. New listings are cool, but you know what else is cool? Discounts. We love discounts. And Black Friday is not popular because of new product launches. It's popular because of sales and discounts. Now, keep in mind, just because there have been a lot of price drops on a property, it does not mean that it is still priced well. Oftentimes, you'll hear this in a negotiation. If you try to write a lower offer on something that has recently had a price drop, the listing agent might come back and say, well, we just reduced the price 20 grand. That doesn't matter for you. Really, it doesn't matter at all. You want to make your offer based off of real data, and it's not your problem if that house was listed too high. Now, the key to knowing whether or not the value is right is just having the right group of professionals working for you or having the knowledge yourself. And really try not to ignore the stale listings. Think to yourself, if this house was listed at this price to begin with, would it have been on the market this long? If not, well, you just identified a perfect example of a house that was priced too high, and that's the only reason likely that it is not sold. So potentially great value and good opportunity here to get something below market value. Now, this is applicable in all markets. However, what I will say is in really hot markets, so under 2 months of inventory, north of 70% SNLR, these price drops are likely to cause a spike in activity with more showings and potentially more offers. So it's about 50% as much activity as you would have on a new listing, roughly. And there's no data to back this up. This is just based off my experiences when I've listed things and dropped prices, etc. You get some momentum, but it's nothing like a new listing. And this is why you'll see people withdraw listings and then relist them rather than just drop the price. Tip number 5, do not brush off ugly listings. I'm talking about houses with horrible paint colors, questionable furniture choices and decor, and things that just don't look right, but potentially are okay. Is the house really terrible or is it just really ugly? Because you can probably fix it. Tip number 6, stay on top of current accepted offers. Chances are, if you've been buying houses over the last 5 years, you've ran into situations where you wanted to book a showing just to find out that that house had an accepted offer. However, with accepted offers, you have about a 2-week period for conditions, and it's very important to stay on top of all of this. Now, this is tedious. It's a lot of extra work for realtors to do this, and a lot of realtors don't do this. But you should do it. How does this work? Well, when I see one of these situations, I follow up. I ask the listing realtor, I say, what are the conditions for this property? I want to know which conditions. I want all the information I can get, and I want to know when they're due. And then what I do is I wait for the due date and then ask them, how is the financing going? Do you have the pre-approval letter? How's the inspection going? I'm essentially being very annoying because I want my buyer to know first if that deal is going to fall through. And I will also say too, even though a lot of agents don't do this, it's also because a lot of listing agents really don't answer these messages. It is not uncommon where I have to follow up multiple times with a listing realtor to find out this information. So it's something you really have to pry for and you have to be persistent. And a lot of agents can do this. So all you have to do is just ask them to stay in the loop on something and they'll probably be happy to do it. Now note, if a deal failed, there are different reasons why it could fail. So it's important to find out why it failed. Did it fail from inspection? Did it fail from finance, insurance issues? It's really important to know why and how. If it's an inspection item, is it a big item? Is it something you can deal with? Try to find out if you can, but keep in mind, get your own inspection. Just because they send you a screenshot from an inspection report doesn't mean that's the whole picture. They might say that, oh, well, the deck was bad and they walked away, but if they walked away because the foundation is crumbling, that's totally different. So get your own inspection anyways and take it with a grain of salt, but it is valuable info. Tip number 7, stay on top of low traffic streets. Low traffic streets make for really great houses and really difficult to sell listings. After the initial early momentum of being a new listing is gone, it's really hard to get that momentum in these listings because they don't have the attention and the traffic and the eyes on them like a listing on a busy street would have. So this is a great opportunity to get a better house at a great value. And typically these are very difficult listings to have. They require a lot of different marketing strategies outside of just MLS, paid ads, videos, all of that sort of thing. They can be very difficult properties to sell, even though they are objectively better properties to have. So keep that in mind when you're buying a house. If you see something that's been on the market just a little bit too long, check the street. Is it a crescent? Is it a cul-de-sac? How many streets come off of that? Is it a connector? Well, if you can figure that one out, then chances are you might have found a really good diamond in the rough. Now, this tip is applicable in all markets, thankfully. All right, tip number 8, look favorably upon homes that have not seen the market much. I am talking about estate sales, one owner home, two owner homes, homes that the purchaser has lived in for at least 5 years, or really just any home that has a nice collection of records and receipts and has been well maintained. These homes typically can be more dated, but will come with a lot less question marks and unknowns. Tip number 9, identify event-driven sales. What am I talking about here? Well, I'm talking about both divorce sales and relocations, just to name a couple. Now, relocations can be a little bit tricky to tell. Usually the telltale sign is the name on the title. Is it a relocation company that owns it that you're buying it from? Well, that tells you a lot already. However, telling if it's a divorce sale can be a little bit more tricky, but with the right knowledge, you can usually identify it quick. Now, how do we identify that? Well, if you are a woman, you might already know how to do this. If you're a guy like me, it might require a little bit of learning. So, for example, does it look like a college kid lives there? Is it a mattress on the floor situation? Is there a suspicious amount of chairs, not enough tables? Is there no hand towel in the bathroom? Is the closet half empty or 3/4 empty? Are there only 4 shirts in the closet? Is there no dressers? Is there only one night table? These sort of things seem like little minor details, but they can tell you a lot about the house. And it's one of the best reasons why you should always stage if you're selling. So keep that in mind. It's not uncommon to find great values because with these relocation sales and with these divorce sales, you're dealing with properties that have external pressure on them to sell and potentially tight timelines to do so. So that means more leverage for you as a buyer. Tip number 10, this one's quick, but identify seasonal advantages. Are you showing a vacant home in the month of December or January? Well, keep in mind, those tax assessments have just been mailed out in January and they're going to be due soon. And chances are, if that's a vacant home, that homeowner might not want to pay that value. So that right there could be the difference in like $4 or $5 grand immediately from your negotiation. Secondly, vacation rentals. The best time to buy a vacation rental is right after the summer. So I'm talking about September, October, November, really right up until about March, because once April and May kick in, it gets a little bit easier to book them in advance. So keep in mind, you can find great vacation rentals if you look on the off season. Tip number 11, this one's potentially complicated and it really just depends whether or not you can do this, but have a flexible closing date and a good deposit. The deposit is the second number that a seller will see after the initial offer price, and the closing date is one of the first items that they are going to see as well. A closing date often is a non-negotiable for a seller. So if they're given the choice between, $4 or $5 grand or a closing date that's terrible and a closing date that's great, they're often going to choose the one that's great. Keep that in mind. You have a lot of ways to create leverage and value in your offer outside of that. Tip number 12, this is the last one, but watch out for incorrect listing data. I'm talking about homes that have the wrong school zone listing and also homes that have incorrect land size listings. One of the best deals I've ever gotten for someone was a home that was on a 1/3 of an acre property, but it was listed as 348 square meters because the listing realtor forgot to put in the second PID and the proper land size for both PIDs combined. There are a lot of examples of this. I'm sure every realtor has dealt with something like this before, but keep that in mind. Don't just take it at face value. There are websites that we can use to find out if the school zoning is correct or not, and there are ways to find out if there is other additional land involved. So these have been my tips to find the value in New Brunswick. It might be applicable elsewhere, but it'll just depend on your market. As with everything, contact a local qualified professional prior to working in these sort of things. But this framework should give you a little bit of a rough guideline on how to find better values. So remember, be a vulture, be strategic, use leverage, create leverage, and wait for leverage if you need to. The market does not appear to be heating up anytime soon. And this is a great time to implement a good strategy and take advantage of a softened market. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. Please find me on Spotify and YouTube, the New Brunswick Real Estate Podcast. I am also on Instagram and Facebook, New Brunswick Real Estate. Please follow me on Spotify and leave a review and subscribe and like the video on YouTube if you're there. I am Ryan Taylor. I am a licensed realtor in the province of New Brunswick with Royal LePage Atlantic. The opinions in this video are my own. They do not reflect other opinions of members of the New Brunswick Real Estate Association or affiliated boards, organizations, or companies. Even though this is real estate advice, it might not be applicable to your situation, so contact a local qualified professional prior to making decisions related to real estate or finance. Thanks again. I look forward to getting another one of these out there.